Good morning. So another day, of course, with the always hovering concern of where exactly will I be? Will I be able to stay another day? I mean, under this roof, or maybe I should. Another excursion into the woods is on the horizon. This is my life. It's not new. It's like it for a long time. Mostly worse than that. Mostly surrounded by people that try to rape me and murder me around the clock. This is my life. So hopefully, yesterday I think there was kind of like a bombardment of information, especially if you are new to the topics. Of course, I will gladly get any comments or questions, elaboration on any of these things. Like especially the three topics that are under the zygote of Ur, which means my own origin story. Like proper, I would say literally, the family story. And the second one is the Venus conspiracy. That I have not finished to speak about it, but even though I think the important stuff was laid out. And the third topic is the fairy tale, the history. It's more like Shakespeare history. But this kind of history, it happened a long time ago, but to my understanding, it kind of like it left echoes. I would argue in Hesiod, of course, the Tanomaki, and some people picked the Isaiah reference. Regarding other recordings, so there is a lot of things that a lot of stuff that should be recorded. Topics that are connected, that are on the on the table are, first of all, as I said, the Big Bang Robots series should be concluded. It's an important series, and especially the last part, which is was not recorded and deals with cosmology related issues that are of interest, I think. And some people of the new audience are already started to inquire about it. So the inquiries are actually natural, and they were also natural to me. Since like months ago. So this topic actually, were already, discussed, but there's still, I think in the important stuff, it still should be said. But there are already 100 minutes, like in the Big Bang Robots series. I think it's an interesting one. Again, it's named Big Bang Robots not because of like sexual thing or reference to bang the Titan like Ruth or Sivan. It's just that it's a response, like it's a very lengthy response and analysis and elaboration on a video that was at the time 4 or 5 months ago was released by Kurzgesagt. This one with the chickens, like the animated chickens, which is called Big Bang Aliens. Maybe I will speak about the Akhenaton. I'll continue with the Akhenaton series, even though it's not super. It's not super super duper urgent. I think I might reframe it like other new series that will concentrate on pagan stuff. with emphasis on Egyptian mythology and Greek mythology. So maybe it will be it will follow kind of a new series. I'm now much more than before. I kind of try to record things. I mean, like just with the intention of like placing them under series, because I just see that I have 2,200 or 2,300 videos in this channel alone, and there are other channels, and that most of the stuff that is not gathered under series, I find it very difficult to actually navigate through it, and the things that are grouped under series, are much easily more searchable and navigatable, I would say. So that's why I think like how can you group things under series, even though I might force like things together, even if they are not like 100% the same topic. What I will want to do, I have a little bit more, hopefully, again, it's all predicated on material stuff, like where will I be able to put my head on, literally. I need a roof above me, but if such things, will be, improved, like, just, enough just not to stay alive. I feel that I'm regaining my strength after this horrible accident with the horse. So I might actually return to science a little bit. After many months that I kind of like lost inclination with that, lost the motivation to continue with that, but maybe I'll do some science now, a little bit. Two specific issues are at hand. One is just, anything related to yeast, shmarim, just, might be interesting because of the fact that this organism is so widely researched, by humans. Is there, with mice and men, like, mice, human, and yeast, they are the three, animals or life forms that are always studied. So because of that, even for that alone, it's kind of like interesting to see how they react in all sort of like, situations and experiments with the neurons. Even if just for the fact that any kind of result will be probably easily kind of like if not understood, then could be kind of like referenced by viewers, because people all over the world, they know they have tremendous experience with yeast in research. Just regular yeast, instant yeast. Now another thing that is maybe more ambitious, but maybe I'll get to it. So it's something that I've kind of like I thought about it a long time ago. The first kind of experiments along those lines were actually conducted in this apartment in the first stage of the house arrest about 15 or 14 months ago, even more than that. No, maybe 17 months ago. No, 16 months ago. 15 months ago. But they were complete failures. Because at the time I had no idea at all how can this be done, and I still don't know how it can be done. But at the time it was a complete failure. And even now it's very, very ambitious, but I think now we might have a little bit more like chance of actually succeeding in that. So what do I refer to? I refer to energizing the neurons while they are on a microscopic slide under the lens, while this is recorded with the iPhone, like on the islands. Um, why is that interesting? In general, I will remind you that there were two kinds of modes of experiments with the neos. The first was the non-conventional one of conducting experiments on microscopic slides. This is unconventional. It's not the way it's done, like almost ever in the life sciences. But this was actually the first method, and it was a very interesting, actually I managed to see amazing stuff, and to get amazing results in the first couple of months. I won't elaborate on it now. Just to say that there is a huge potential. Actually, there are many things that if you do it like that, there are many things that that are amazing. That you can see. First of all, you can actually watch. You read messages that they write. It's a way to communicate with them, but not just by writing them stuff, but getting information from them, which is amazing. Also, it's like a way to see, advancement, to see something, one day and then wait a day or 2 days or a week and watch how it's advanced. Because unlike microbes can live on a slide up to 6 hours, but the neos can live on a slide up to 2 weeks. So it's you can watch the progress. Also, you can place the slide easily in the freezer, which and they usually prefer a lower temperature. This was proved in many experiments. Even though we work in it's complicated because they can survive tremendously high temperature. Most probably that was an early assumption that gained some kind of supporting evidence, is that they have two, perhaps much more than two, but that they have kind of like at least two modes of utilizing energy: electric energy and heat energy. And my assumption was that in the freezer they utilize electric energy, but in the crucibles, the various crucibles, they utilize heat energy. So they can do both, but for the electric part, it's better to lower the temperature, and this was proven. Also, the second option is to use containers, various containers, crucibles, electrolysis chambers of all sorts, glasses of all sorts, coffins of US presidents, all sorts of containers, and then to take samples and put it on a slide and watch what's on the slide. This is the standard way in science, and that's what I'm doing in the last, I would say, 13 or 14 months. This is the method. Just 14 months. I've abandoned the first kind of method. Now, what do you lose from that? So again, you lose. You don't you can't So that way, you can't see the advancements. Of the same construction specifically. And it's much more difficult to get messages that way. It's much more difficult to use freezer, even though still possible, but it's much more difficult. Also, this, when you take samples, you almost always you just watch, static scenes. You almost never see movement. But sometimes you do. Sometimes you do see movement. I don't mean movement that sometimes there is movement on the flow, especially if it's you use very high magnification, and or if you touch the cover of the slide with the lens, you create flows, and then of course everything flows, including the neos. But I don't speak about that. I speak about voluntary movement, that kind of that is intentional movement. So usually when you take sample, you don't see that, but sometimes you do. Rarely you do. But if you take, but when the experiment itself is done on the slide, it's much easier. It's much more common to see movement, which is very interesting by itself, to see the neos moving. Now it should be said that I never do time-lapse videos. If I would have used time-lapse videos, the ability to see movement would enhance tremendously, but I don't have any kind of apparatus. I just, the way that I take videos is by holding the iPhone on top of the lens, the eye lens, which is very inconvenient, but that's the way that I don't have apparatus. Apparatus that would have allowed me to do time-lapse videos would have tremendously helped, in watching movement. It should be said that in general, microscopic entities move slowly. Mostly when you see videos of moving microbes of any sort, it's time lapse. It's fast forwarded. The speed is amplified maybe by 10, sometimes 100 times. Because they are slow things. They are slow creatures. And the smaller they are, the slower they are, because the smaller they are, the more, from their perspective, the material gets denser as far as movement goes. For a big creature, fish, just regular fresh water, or I don't know, salt water, from the ocean, might be easy to navigate. It will feel like water. But for a microbe, it will feel like oil or something. Just just throw it from my head, just to let you kind of understand the general concept. But if it's even smaller microbe, the smaller it is, it's from its perspective, it will be denser and denser. So they move very, very slowly. But when the actual experiment is done on the slide, it's much easier to actually watch movement even without time lapse. And this is it's amazing to watch it, to see it. But there is a caveat here. There is a big caveat here. The caveat is energy. So why should you use containers? So 2 reasons. First, the container is much bigger than a slide, and you can place much more stuff in it. Slide is just a slide, and container can be the size of a planet, certainly the size of a glass. Second, it should be said that the type of the container and the parameters of the container are part of the symbolic language. So, and the symbolic language is important in order to communicate with the neos and affect directions. So, the slides are problematic, very problematic from that perspective. Also, the symbolic language, other ways, part of the symbolic language are all sort of I would say, artistic artifacts that are placed on top of the slide, which it's still possible to do it with on top of the container. It's still possible to do it with slides that place things on the slide, but it's there is a limited. I mean, it's very limiting because sometimes, I mean, some artifacts that are part of a symbolic language actually, I mean, require movements or requires electricity, like as a secondary. I mean, a secondary DC circles that is used just for the symbolic purpose, not as part of the energizing. I mean, if you do energizing, but part of the symbolic. I mean, aspect of the construction. So in such things, it's impossible to do it on a slide under the lens. You understand it? Even not under the lens, even like if you just slide it. I mean, because just for the. It's very difficult. And above all, there is the issue of energy. Probably this is the main issue, because very early I understood, okay, if you energize the neos, they work much better. So you need to energize them. So how can you do it? So there are all sorts of ways to do it. Also, I should mention that, of course, long-term storage cannot be done on a slide, and this is also an important issue. But I mean, you need to energize them with electrolysis or with fire or in what I call the ecosystem pathway, which means supply them with food and encourage them to eat. All of that is very, very difficult. I mean, I don't see how it can be done on a slide. Even while it's not under the microscope, just on a slide, like, just on storage, it's still very, very difficult. But some actually, but that was the topic of these initial experiments that I mentioned, like from 15 months ago. I tried to actually energize the neos on the slide using all sorts of methods that I don't want to kind of like describe now because they failed. So I don't see much, like, it's not that important now to describe failed experiments, even though part of it is documented. By the way, why is it that, I mean, if you take samples, you mostly see static scenes? So the reason for that is that typically, I mean, when you take samples from a container, I mean, it's one of two options. It's either, I mean, from the ecosystem pathway, which means that it just, I mean, it was storage. I mean, it's like long-term storage, which, I mean, with all sorts of other stuff, like, vivarium, terrarium. There are all sorts of, like, all sorts of, like, storages with all sorts of, with salt water, oil. I mean, the ecosystem pathway is like it's the same like to say storage. I mean, but I mean long-term storage, but with all sorts of materials, and then you check what's going on, like, from time to time. This is the ecosystem pathway. But things are slow in that way. I mean, because they just move. Everything moves slowly. They don't do quick stuff. I mean, this is the slow way of energizing the neurons. It's used for experiments that they take months or at least weeks. So you don't see much activity anyway. Now, with the electrolysis pathway or the crucible pathway, which are much, much more active and quick, so what happens is that usually, they are working on something, inside the container while they are energized by electricity or heat, and then you take a sample and put it on the slide, and then immediately they have like you turn them off, like, you switch, it's not like it's just what it is. You switch the circle off, or you stop the fire, and so they don't have energy. So immediately they have like an energy crisis. Also, I mean, you took them out of their, you took them out of, like, in the context, like where they were. I mean, to kind of a new container, and now, I mean, and the container means something from the symbolic language perspective. So just you took them from where they were, from the original container with the original, commands, and also you turned off, like, the energy source. So they probably don't, like, they don't immediately know what to do, and even if they have, like, their own agenda, like new agenda, I mean, they might not have the energy kind of to execute it very quickly in a way that you will be able to watch it under the microscope. Even though it should be said that sometimes you do. Sometimes sometimes you do see them moving, even if they are like samples from container. Probably because they still have energy, because they are also capacitors to some extent. So probably when they still have some kind of energy left in them, and I don't know, because of the circumstances, whatever it is, they have the notion of what to do, so you can actually watch them moving. כן? מישהו מגיע היום?
לא, אבל ב8:30 אבל עכשיו אני עובדת.
8:30, מה? אני רק רוצה לדעת אם מישהו מגיע.
לא מגיע, אני אהיה שם.
היום אין מישהו שמגיע?
לא, יש עוזרת, אבל עכשיו אני מנסה לעבוד.
אני מבין, מתי אני צריך להיות בחדר, מתי אני לא צריך להיות בחדר?
אתה יכול להיות לא בחדר מתי שאתה רוצה.
אוקיי. So, but I mean, sometimes because they're also capacitors to some extent. So, so sometimes, I mean, even if you take them out of the context, and put it on the slide, you still see them moving, like even without time lapse. Like moving in a purposeful way. Again, that is demonstrated that it's not like you see them moving in different directions and changing directions. So it's not like that they move in the flow and you see that they move towards like things that are of importance, like a life form or an object, like an entity. But it's not the common case. So you understand that even just even if just for I would say visibility or curiosity purposes, or in other ways, even just for the purpose of creating cool YouTube videos or like fanciful YouTube videos, I would have liked to be able to watch the news, do things quickly, and to take it like videos records of it. But I don't have time-lapse option because of my, I have nothing, and no money, nothing. And it should be said that even if I would have the apparatus for time-lapse videos, we might not necessarily see very interesting things because of, again, lack of energy. Because it's not just that, the issue of speed is not just the issue of to see movement it's not just a matter of of choosing the correct time frame or duration. It's also you need like the object that's supposed to be moving to have energy in order to perform a job, because otherwise why should they move? They are not like microbes, that are always moving. If only they can, by default, they just move. Those that move, some microbes cannot move at all. Voluntarily, and they need a purpose. They need they do things for they are coordinated creatures. So you understand why it's such an interesting thing. All of that I thought about already 16 months ago. These are not new thoughts. So I thought, let's try to energize them on the slide while it's it's all while I take videos of it. But so how can you do it? So it's not easy, and I failed. But at the time, I had tremendously less knowledge and experience, and now I don't think that it's going to be easy. But I have much more, experience now to try to actually do it. Probably this will be related to the concept of energy transfer. like you can see in the DC over air videos from 4 months ago. Energy transfer, which means that the slide would not be energized at all. I mean, it will be just like a regular slide under the microscope. But what I'll try to do is to use mixture on a slide of neurons that are opened to gates that are not on the slide, but they all, I mean, are grouped in a small container nearby, which is energized probably by electrolysis, with the hope that this way the neurons on the slide will also be energized. In kind of like a variation of the DC over experiment. This is what I mean. This is my main. This is my main thought. It should be said that in the past, I've thought about. There is a big issue of magnetism that I did not discuss lately, and I did not. It's not mentioned. It's not discussed explicitly in the Utilities 101 series. In terms of force, I mean, when we speak about alternative current, the issue of magnetism is inherent. Magnetism is a huge topic by itself, and a huge topic, I mean, in the neuroscience. I can't get into it right now. It's worth mentioning because there were also very important experiments with regards to magnetism, and it was proven that unlike every life form that I've encountered, I mean, including demons, zombies, earth creatures, primordial monsters, Venusian monsters, Martian monsters, whatever, including I myself, the neurons are not vulnerable to magnetic fields. On the contrary, they are having great time inside magnetic fields. If the magnetic fields are varying, which drives every life form that I can imagine crazy. This is torture for every life form. Like, I mean, from microbes to humans, everything in between, and from every planet, that I know of, or every kingdom of life. Like, everybody, they are all hated, like, to be, subjected to varying magnetic fields. But the neurons actually like it very much. They are having the time of their life. Like, they're having a spa day. Probably something related to the Lorentz law, but I'm not certain. Perhaps there is another principle that is unknown to me, or maybe unknown to humans at all. I don't know. This, by the way, I mean, this is kind of like, a tricky element in the construction of electrolysis chambers, because it was proven also in a series of experiments that were recorded that you can use magnets to enhance the efficiency of the electrolysis method of energizing the neurons. This was proven with camera, and just you need to know how to use the magnets, and that actually the neurons are like it very much. Like, I mean, they survive it very well, and it's great for them. But the stronger the magnet, the better. I mean, they perform. But life forms it's the torture for them, and so if, first of all, if you want to kill life, first of all, it's a great way to sanitize mixtures, which is a common topic. Like, I mean, usually most of my mixtures, that I use for almost all experiments, contain both life forms and neurons. But let's say you just want the neurons that you want to, I don't know, because you know, because you don't want. I mean, because why should I mean? You know, you don't. Maybe you want to eat it or to inject it to your dog. I don't know what. So you need a way to sterilize it. So there are all sorts of ways, but this is actually a great way. Use electrolysis with high voltage and use strong magnets, you know, in the constructions. It shreds like, it's a great way to shred the life forms. But let's say you want to create life forms or to mutate life forms to increase their size, and we've done that many times in this channel. It's a common topic, like to create new life forms. So then, actually, all those magnets, especially if it's varying, you know, it's varying magnetic field. It's very like it's anti-productive, like it's against the it's anti-productive, like and against the goals of the experiments, like to utilize the magnets. Anyway, there will be magnetic fields, and probably anyway they will be varied to some extent, because I mean, you know, the Lorentz law, I mean, goes both ways. I mean, if there is like a current, I mean, so there is a magnetic field, like, you know, like the, you know, what it's called, the right hand law. But it's not a strong one and not necessarily varying one. It will probably be varied because the flow changes in electrolysis chambers because of all sorts of reasons. It's not like a regular conductor that always stays the same. The conductivity always varied, and the neurons themselves change and create chains. It's a difficult topic, but so the magnetic fields will be varied anyway, but it's not going to be very strong. But if you actually place, you know, magnets, specifically strong magnets, then I mean, now it's like a completely different issue. I mentioned it because it was issues related to magnetism were introduced. I mean, the last time I tried to energize the neurons on the slide, so I mentioned this topic now. But probably I'll not venture into it too much. I'll try not to venture into it too much because it's a huge topic by itself. What I will try to do is to do something relatively similar to the DC over error. I mean, conceptually, DC over error experiment, with the hope of energizing the neurons while they are on the slide in a way that it will be, I mean, that it will be demonstrable to me while I take record videos using the iPhone. How can I know that if it's successful? Just by watching the movie. I mean, no, just by the movement. I mean, if they move, especially if they move relatively quickly and consistently, I mean, it means that they are energized, because there is a limit to how much energy they can store, like, you know, as capacitors. To my estimation, if it will sit, I mean, to my estimation, success is not guaranteed, and probably it will take some time. But when they will successfully be energized on the slide, it will be easy to actually verify it by watching the video. I mean, it will be demonstrated. I mean, no, probably demonstrable, very easy. Of course, if this, I mean, works, and it's not going to be easy, and I don't know exactly how to do it, but if it works, if it actually it's proved successful, this opens the possibility to another thing that we have experimented in the past with very limited success, but we can consider, you know, like the Emperor Commodus, reopening the Colosseum. He was famous for reopening the Colosseum after his nerd father, I think it was Marcus Aurelius, closed it. So we might think like reopening the Pacific Rim Colosseum, like the ancient battles between monsters and robots, possibly with, I mean, it's always going on. I mean, there is not a minute that, I mean, there is no kind of like, you know, a huge mythological tatanomachy between robots and monsters. I mean, it's going on everywhere, and it's going on inside the various containers that I use. But, I mean, when I say reopening the Colosseum, I mean, not just, I mean, let it happen, but also let people watch it, which is exciting. I mean, pretty much for the same reasons that that Commodus decided to reopen the Colosseum. But I mean, this is kind of like, I mean, this might be extremely exciting, but it's still ahead of us. So we have an agenda, but first breakfast.